Welcome back, everyone. On today's episode of Duty and Valor, you'll hear the story of a man who turned an unremarkable Naval Academy stay into a more than remarkable naval career. A man who faced 8 Japanese planes alone, single-handedly thwarting an enemy attack against his aircraft carrier. A man who was credited with the development of nighttime naval fighter tactics. This is the story of Medal of Honor recipient Lieutenant Commander Butch O'Hare. Edward Henry O'Hare, who would go by Butch, was born on March 13, 1914 in St. Louis, to parents Selma and Edward O'Hare. When he was 14, his parents divorced. Butch and his 2 sisters remained in St. Louis with their mother, while their father moved to Chicago. In Chicago, his father was an attorney, and his biggest client was the infamous gangster Al Capone. Edward eventually turned on his client and was a big reason Al Capone was convicted of tax evasion. Butch attended the Western Military Academy in Alton, Illinois, before he was selected to attend the U.S. Naval Academy. There, he was an unremarkable student and graduated 255th out of 323 students, but he still received his commission as an ensign on June 3, 1937. He served aboard the battleship USS New Mexico for 2 years before he started flight training at Naval Air Station Pensacola. He earned his Wings of Gold on May 2, 1940, and was assigned to the USS Saratoga and then to the USS Enterprise the following year. After flying many types of training aircraft, he was finally seated in the plane that he would later earn the Medal of Honor in, the Grumman F-4FE Wildcat. Around this time, he was also promoted to Lieutenant Junior Grade. While back home in St. Louis, Lieutenant Junior Grade O'Hare met his future wife, Rita Worcester. He fell in love immediately and proposed to her on their first date, and just a few months later they were married on September 6, 1941. They chose to honeymoon in Hawaii, and after the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, O'Hare was called back to active duty. On January 11, 1942, O'Hare, who was promoted to lieutenant by now, was assigned to the fighter squadron VF-3 aboard the USS Saratoga as it patrolled southwest of Hawaii when it was hit by a Japanese torpedo. The damage to the ship was extensive, and the Saratoga was sent to the west coast for repairs. His fighter squadron was then transferred to the USS Lexington. On February 20, 1942, Lieutenant O'Hare, his squadron, and the Lexington were fighting in the Pacific. That day, they were off the coast of New Ireland in Papua New Guinea when radar picked up 2 waves of Japanese bombers heading straight towards them. The Lexington immediately scrambled 6 fighters to intercept the first wave. They were able to down most of the Japanese aircraft and eventually break up the formation. While this was going on, the second wave of bombers continued unopposed towards the Lexington. With most aircraft busy dealing with the first wave, there were only 2 pilots available to intercept the second wave of 8 Japanese bombers. The only 2 men who were close enough to engage the enemy were Lieutenant O'Hare and his wingman, Lieutenant William Duff DeFeo. The 2 Navy pilots approached 1,500 feet above the enemy formation. They dove and prepared to attack when Lieutenant DeFeo's gun jammed, leaving only Lieutenant O'Hare to stop the enemy formation, now just 9 miles from the Lexington. The bombers were flying in a tight formation and were protected by their rear-facing 20mm cannons. Felix the Cat, the Wildcat that Lieutenant O'Hare was piloting, was armed with 4 50 caliber guns with a 450 round capacity per gun. Though this sounds like a lot, it actually only allowed Lieutenant O'Hare to fire 10 3-second bursts of fire. Lieutenant O'Hare was able to hit 2 Japanese bombers, which temporarily forced them out of formation. Turning to the main formation, he made continual passes, targeting the closest bomber each time. As the fighting approached the Lexington, he also had to avoid friendly fire from the ship. Of the 8 bombers in the second attack wave, Lieutenant O'Hare was able to shoot down 5 of them and damage a 6th. Lieutenant O'Hare was forced to return to the Lexington when he ran out of ammunition. As he approached, he again had to avoid friendly fire as a gunner on board mistook him for a Japanese plane. Once he landed safely on the flight deck, he approached the apologetic gunner who fired on him and said, quote, "Son, if you don't stop shooting at me when I've got my wheels down, I'm going to have to report you to the gunnery officer," unquote. With those 5 aerial victories, Lieutenant O'Hare became the Navy's first fighter ace of the war. Beyond his courage, the most remarkable skill he exhibited was his aim. It was estimated that he only needed roughly 60 rounds for each bomber that he shot down, a remarkable feat that was noted by all. On April 21, 1942, with President Roosevelt standing beside them, his wife Rita placed the Medal of Honor upon him for his actions that day. In addition to the Medal of Honor, O'Hare was promoted to Lieutenant Commander. Lieutenant Commander O'Hare spent some time stateside on a publicity and war bond tour before returning to the war in June 1942. He was given command of the fighter squadron VF-6. The squadron had replaced most of their Wildcats with the F-6F-3 Hellcat. The Hellcat was credited with giving the U.S. aerial superiority. This superiority, especially during the day, forced the Japanese to employ nighttime attacks on U.S. ships. Lieutenant Commander O'Hare was directly involved in developing counter-tactics against these nighttime attacks. On November 26, 1943, Lieutenant Commander O'Hare took off from the USS Enterprise on the first nighttime fighter plane attack launched from a carrier in U.S. naval history, volunteering to lead the attack himself. In the fight that ensued, he was credited with downing 2 Japanese planes. During the battle, Lieutenant Commander O'Hare found himself between an American TBF Avenger and a Japanese Betty bomber. As the planes shot at each other, Lieutenant Commander O'Hare was caught in the crossfire and was hit. His Hellcat was last seen breaking away into the darkness. The area was searched for days, but neither Lieutenant Commander O'Hare nor his plane was ever seen again. He was first declared missing in action and then killed in action in January 1944. For his heroism that day, he was awarded the Navy Cross. Lieutenant Commander Butch O'Hare left behind his wife Rita and daughter Kathleen. His legacy continued on, with the Navy naming a destroyer the USS O'Hare in his honor. In addition, in 1949, Chicago renamed Orchard Depot Airport to O'Hare International Airport. Lieutenant Commander Edward Butch O'Hare stands as a beacon of courage and heroism, a testament to the extraordinary feats that can be achieved through dedication, skill, and an unwavering commitment to duty. His remarkable bravery not only earned him the Medal of Honor, but also inspired countless others to strive for excellence and selflessness. Thank you for listening to this episode of Duty and Valor. To read more about this week's hero, check out the sources used in today's episode in our show notes and at dutyandvalor.com. If you want to listen to our episodes early, we release new episodes on our YouTube channel of the same name on Fridays at 5 p.m. Also on our channel, we release daily YouTube shorts that highlight our nation's heroes, most of whom haven't been featured on our show yet. Be sure to like, follow, and share our episodes. And please join us for our next episode, where we'll be sharing the inspiring story of another American hero who served with pride and lived with humility.